Hi, I'm Eric and welcome to the sideboard. Today we've got a really good deck for you. This could even be considered standard sleeper. This deck went to 10th place finish by Adam Bukowski in US Nationals, a 600 man event. If you like today's list, you can find the link in the description box down below. Also, hit that like and subscribe button to help support the channel. So let's go ahead and take a look at Adam's main 60 here. We won't delve into it much right now because we're going to get into each individual card here in just a moment. But Adam basically uses Sunbird's approach or Sunbird's invocation to cast Approach of the Second Sun. Now he's got a lot of cards like Fumigate and Settle the Wreckage, Cast Out, Ixalan's Binding, Planeswalkers like Gideon, Chandra, and Watley to kind of help hold down the fort until he can get his combo off. So let's take a little bit closer look at that combo. Sunbird's Invocation and Approach of the Second Sun. Now the way Sunbird's Invocation works is if you cast a card, you get to look at the top X cards of your library, which X being that card's converted mana cost. Then you may cast one of the cards you looked at that has X converted or mana cost or less for free without paying its mana cost. So with Approach of the Second Sun, you cast it from your hand, you look at 7 cards, and then if you find a Approach of the Second Sun, you can then cast that from your deck, and that will suit the clause of having to be cast before. So that when the one from your hand actually resolves, it is then satisfied and you win the game. So to do that, he's running 4 Sunbird's Invocations and 3 Approach of the Second Sun. Now, it's kind of hard to get that combo off, so let's look at some of the spells he uses to get into the late game. With Magma Spray, Lightning Strike, and a Braid in the format, he's got quite a bit to choose from. However, he only runs 1 Magma Spray, 1 Lightning Strike, and 3 Abrades. Now, there's no energy in this deck, so you won't find any Harness Lightning here, but I did find it interesting at how heavy he went on the Abrade. And it does make sense. After I played test a little bit, Abrade is definitely the one card you do want multiple copies of in the deck, and it seems to work for most things here. So let's take a look at some of the ways to utterly wipe the board altogether. Now we have Settle the Wreckage and Fumigate. However, Settle the Wreckage, they do have to swing into it, and it is easier to play around than Fumigate, but he is splitting these 2 cards down the middle with 3 and 3. So those are some of the ways to kill creatures and things of that nature. Let's look at some of the ways to deal with other permanents or problematic creatures such as the Scarab God or possibly Hazoret. Cast Out here playing a little bit of double duty because it's one of the few ways early you have to actually draw cards with its cycling ability. So this deck does aggressively cycle, but that does help you get to the land drops you need, and you really do need to be hitting those land drops. Ixalan's Binding is just an absolute wonderful card, as it isn't a true answer to cards like the Scarab God. And not to mention, Blue-Black Control cannot deal with a resolved enchantment. Another thing that I should probably point out about Cast Out is that's instant speed, which could allow you to instant speed chain into some of your, well, one of your 15 different 4-drops in the deck. Now, if you could do that with a 5-drop, you could cast things like Angel of Sanctions or Fumigate. However, we're mainly worried about instant speed on the 4-drops here. Now, Angel of Sanction is just another form of exiling things, and the ability to get it back from the graveyard is pretty good as well. With the Fumigates and things of that nature in the deck, I kind of thought that Angel of Sanction was a little bit fringe play, but the 3 power really comes into play when we start talking about the sideboard. So 4 Cast Outs, 2 Ixalan's Bindings, and a single Angel of Sanction to deal with those problematic permanents. Now, remember I said there's Planeswalkers in this deck, and he runs 3 Planeswalkers, with Gideon leading the way for Chandra. Chandra just really pulling a lot of work in this deck. Gideon and Chandra both being able to help lock down creatures and stop damage from coming in to allow you to get up to the later turns. It's just absolutely great combination together. And then we have our last Planeswalker with Watley Warrior Poet. Really seemed out of place at first, but that 5 mana is a relevant thing. You want to cast things for 5 so that you can go 5 deep. And real quick, while we're talking about that, we'll go ahead and mention that. If you cast Approach for the second sun and you have a Sunbirds out and you do not hit another approach, then at that point you need to get back down through your library to hit your approach, who is it is now 6 cards, or sorry, 7 cards down. So the next turn you draw a card. It is now 6 cards down. You cast a 5 mana spell. You then will reveal the top 6 cards of your library. Cast any of them if you wish. Or the top 5 cards of your library. Cast any of them that you wish, and then Approach of the Second Sun is sitting directly on top of your library, where you can then cast that. Now, one of the reasons the deck is so heavy on 4-drops is because the deck typically has Chandra on the battlefield. If you Sunbirds into a 4-drop and you play a Chandra or have a Chandra on the battlefield, you simply then just +1, and now the next turn you will draw your Approach. Sometimes it's just better and safer to leave your Approach as the top card of your library, so it cannot be doomfalled, it cannot be removed from your hand by unconventional means, if you will, but you know that you will draw it that next turn. Barring an instant speed Kitesail freebooter, you should be at least able to cast it at that point. So let's go ahead and dig a little bit deeper into this deck with some of the one-ofs here. Oketra herself actually shows up in this deck, and then we get 2 Vance's Blasting Cannons. Oketra the True is kind of like Vance's Blasting Cannons, as it's an honorary Planeswalker. These 2 cards just do so much for the deck, it is almost unreal how good they are. Again, Oketra having 3 power is relative when it comes to the sideboard. Vance's Blasting Cannons just giving you a lot of draw power, and we're not even really worried about the back half of that. Now, let's look at the land base, as that's the majority of the remaining cards here. The deck runs 4 Inspiring Vantage, 4 Stone Quarries, a Singleton Sheffet Dunes, 9 Mountains, and 8 Plains. And that's pretty much it for the main 60 of Adam's deck here. However, I did promise you guys a transformational sideboard, and here it is. With Glorybound Initiate and Heart of Kiran as kind of a combo, Regal Caracal, also 3 power and can crew the heart. 1 Chandra's Defeat, a Captain Landry Storm to kind of really increase the ramp there. 2 Combustible Gear Hulks and a Solemnity. Now, this deck can take out the entire Sunbirds and Approach combo and go into Glorybound Initiate, Heart of Kiran. However, it can also leave in Sunbirds and just take out Approach of the Second Sun and do a lot of work that way and just be a good value deck. Cards like Combustible Gear Hulk can just absolutely turn the game for you, and if you draw 3 cards or they take a bunch of life, either one's normally okay with you. So that is Sunbird's Approach, everyone. I hope you all liked the video. Subscribe to the channel. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had fun. We'll see you next time here on the sideboard.